Well, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Dan, and it's a pleasure to see all of you today. We're very appreciative of your time with us. Just a note, you may have heard 4 people introduced. You probably deduced that there are 3 people here in front of you. Our colleague Gurpreet is on his way. He should be here very soon. Okay, so with that being said, additionally, I was very excited because we were going to do a poll. And the poll was, what did you want to be when you grew up? When you were a child, what was your fantasy about the type of career that you could have? Therefore, talking about the idea of how important it is for all of us to have a chance to connect with peers and colleagues who can help us understand over time our evolving desires and needs. Obviously, that's not working either. So we're pivoting a few different ways right now. But again, appreciate your interest here. The goal of this session is for you to understand a little more different contexts amongst 4 different national perspectives on career and professional development. We are well aware that students, when they consider the possibility of studying abroad, want to have a whole host of experiences and really learn in a whole host of different areas about themselves and really expand their horizons. And specifically, in many cases, are looking to essentially continue their careers or start their careers at that new country where they're now located. So the goal today is for you to learn a little more about the context in Australia, Hong Kong, the United Kingdom, and United States about opportunities for career and professional development for students while they are currently enrolled at the institution where they are attending, and potentially post their studies as well. Okay, so again, we'll go into those contexts here in just a second. We really appreciate you being here with all of us. And again, we are going to pivot a little bit in that we're intending to begin with Australia. We will actually finish with Australia and begin with Hong Kong. But before that, again, to answer the question that we intended to start off with, again, what was that dream career when you were a small child? For me, I dreamed of being an astronaut. That was going to be a really amazing opportunity. But obviously, we pivot and life goes on, and I've come up to being very happy with how life has taken me in other directions. So,
I'm supposed to say what I want to be when I grow up, right? I didn't have a dream. No, I was just changing mine every day. At one point, I want to be a writer, but then it was such a cliche, so I take it off the list. I want to travel around the world, but then I thought that is not a dream. That's just something that I can do. So, and I think I'm living the life now. So at one point I was traveling and writing at the same time. So, but that's why I love talking to students and I love questioning them. Wherever they said, I want to study computer science, I'm like, why? Convince me. And then they go, why do I have to convince you? Anyway, very excited to talk to you about Hong Kong today. How many of you have been to Hong Kong? Quite a few, but I'm pretty sure you have heard of Hong Kong. So what is your idea of Hong Kong? Just shout. What do you think of when you think of Hong Kong? Fast-paced, exactly, indeed. I feel like my words, yeah. Huh? Very well connected, true. Anyone else? Beautiful sky! That's a smart student here looking at this, right? Yeah, true. All of this is true. Hong Kong is a great place to be for students, not only for the education. Of course, we have top-notch university quality education, but I do feel like we have done a very good job to, groom the students to prepare for their career. And I was in another session on Monday. It was interesting for me. A counselor said, Indian parents went to her and said, Hong Kong has only 3% unemployment rate. So they are worried that their kid cannot get a job, which I don't understand. I thought that means that they can get a job. So they said, oh, it must be so competitive. And then I realized I'm not worried because at the university, we do a lot of things that help them to go through the journey so that when they get out of the university, they are very competitive. So of course, we do a lot of coaching and it's provided by the central unit, the career service, but also by the department. We have mentorship, which is not only by professors, the senior student, alumni who is working in the industry, and also a lot of referral. And I thought that is only referral by management, high-level management, but in fact, it was our recent alumni who will refer our current student to internship and then a job afterwards. So it is happening. I was very pleased to learn. And of course, we hold career fair on campus. And it's not just that. We invite Big Four companies to our campus to recruit, and they come and interview students on our campus every year. So many of our students, especially accounting students, auditing students, they will get a job offer way before they graduate. It is very common for students to do internship in Hong Kong. In fact, I would say almost all of my students do at least one internship, but usually they do 2 or 3 because it's so competitive. So in their first summer holiday, they will just get a random internship, not random, but a decent internship, so that they have something on their CV so that they can compete for a better internship in their second year or third year. Because in many cases, they'll be offered a job by the same company if they did well. So, and then they can get recommendation by the same company, and that is why they're more competitive in job market later on. I do love that we have a lot of internship opportunities abroad as well. Sometimes the students go back to their home country to start building their network, which is quite common, especially if they are from Southeast Asia or South Asia. And I see how it helps them to, build their career right after they graduate from Hong Kong, because they've been away for 4 years in a way. Entrepreneurship training is huge in Hong Kong. And I was a history student, literature student. I know nothing about business. And I always thought that business competition is not for me. This is not my thing. But then I saw how my students in creative writing partner with someone in visual arts and someone from computer science, and they would come up with an amazing business plan and compete. And that really helps students in being a leader or critical thinking, become, not everybody has to be an entrepreneur, but the training help them to become more competitive. Because imagine if they go for a job interview, it wouldn't be their first time. And they will learn how to pitch and convince people very early on, and in a real environment, in a very competitive environment. The international network in Hong Kong is amazing. I don't know if you know, but Hong Kong has one of the biggest embassy community in Asia. And I would say they're still very verbal and they're very active. So they hold a lot of events, and they keep it quite open. So for example, the French embassy, they do French May every year, and then they will have receptions, and our students actually go. And we have European studies major, so our students will actually go and talk to people from the embassy or from the consulate. And then if they are bold enough, they might, recommend themselves, can I be like a volunteer and all that? And it happened to our students quite often. I want to add one tedious thing. I think it's really small, but for me, it was very crucial and it was very sweet as well. You see how undergraduate students, when they went for the first job interview, they wouldn't have suit. They wouldn't have decent clothes. So we have suit exchange. So every year we ask current students to donate their unwanted suit, and we put it, of course, clean and also in order of size to let the freshmen to come pick up. And I like all these little things because not everybody has the luxury to buy suits. Even if they had all this coaching and mentorship and all that, they would still feel little if they don't have the right clothes. So I love that we have that little add-on. After graduation, many of the students will stay, very obviously because of the immigration policy, in fact. So the student visa is extendable for 2 years, and during that 2 years, there is absolutely no condition. So they can just stay and look for jobs and go to Bali for holiday and come back, change jobs in different industry, it doesn't matter. So for that 2 years, they have the time in Hong Kong to experience and to look for jobs. And they will stay because Hong Kong is still very competitive and full of opportunities. So I mentioned the unemployment rate. It's also 4th global financial center in the world, which is, we are only tiny little. We are only a city. So there are still a lot of opportunities. The average salary is pretty high. This is very recent as well. So many people would think, I was surprised that no one shouted expensive when I asked about Hong Kong. So Hong Kong is very expensive if you want to buy property. So don't do that. Don't do that. For you guys, don't do that. But for fresh grad, it's actually pretty good because the salary is high, but the tax system is very simple. So we'll keep the salary tax to 15%. Unless you are extremely outstanding, most students don't have to pay a tax until like their second or third year. So even though it might seem expensive if you buy an apartment, but as a fresh graduate student, it's actually not that bad. And also, we have students who will join startup because it's really easy for anyone to start a company. They usually partner with a local, but if they stay in Hong Kong for up to 7 years, they can apply for PR. So you can see that we have no value-added tax, sales tax, capital gain tax whatsoever. So students are actually also very active in stock market as well, investing carefully. Well, we have great business program to train them. And if they are not looking for jobs, there is opportunity for study. So we have 8 public university that offers comprehensive education from undergraduate to PhD. We all offer master degree, top postgraduate program, and master of philosophy. And for our master degree, I was surprised actually to learn that universities offer scholarship for students to study master degree. Really, like 1 year intense course with scholarship. And then we also have a very generous PhD fellowship program, which offers students to do a fast-track PhD in 4 years with a salary, with allowance to travel. And I always thought that is for overseas master degree student. But this year, my student, Felipe from Brazil, freshly graduated from chemistry, Bachelor of Chemistry, got nominated and awarded this so that he would stay here straight from bachelor degree graduates to master and then PhD, and he will get it in 4 years. So these are all the opportunities available. If you're interested, even for you guys, is available. And there's the possibility for PR. So I think this is all for me to share about Hong Kong. Thank you. We do Q&A later, right? Yeah, okay. So I'll pass on to Australia. Go back.
Later, thank you. I'm just going to use this actually. Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Gurpreet, and I'm going to be talking about Australia in terms of how Australia prepares graduates and how universities assist graduates to be able to set them up for success as well. So one of the things that Australia has done is actually working very closely with the Australian government around. There's a policy called Work Ready Graduates. So the Australian government has been working with all the public universities in Australia to be able to make sure that any student that actually goes to the university is actually ready for graduation by the time that they sort of leave university as well. So there's a lot of emphasis put on in Australia have introduced actually work undergraduate learning and internship components as compulsory as part of their degrees as well. Some are actually in year 1, some in year 2, and some are actually in the final year as well. There's also now the difference between work integrated learning and, in a way, where work integrated learning is essentially bringing in a project into the classroom, and the students are actually then doing that project or doing a real life analysis of that project in the classroom. Where an internship is what a normal internship is, where they go externally to the university and be able to then place themselves or work in an external organization for a set number of hours, be it over 40 hours, be it over, is it good? Be it over 40 hours or 80 hours, depending on the degree that it has as well. And the best part, of course, a lot of universities are now looking at bringing industry professionals to do guest workshops and lectures as well. In addition to that, all universities in Australia have what we call a career and employability office as well. And this is these services are offered free to all students that actually come or studying at the university as well. And the focus is actually building the soft skills that students really need. And so for example, looking at career counselling, sort of assisting the students to really understand and fine-tune exactly what kind of job they're looking for, what kind of career they're looking for. Because not necessarily, it's a bit like, as you as counsellors as well, when you see year 11, year 12, year 9 students as well, they've got a lot of ideas, but you've sort of got to bring them down into a certain area as well. And similarly with university as well, they may be doing a Bachelor of Arts, they may be doing a Bachelor of Commerce or a Bachelor of Science degree, but there's so much different scopes in these kind of degrees that students do need that assistance to be able to actually sort of fine-tune a bit more as to what career they sort of want to go into as well. So other things, in addition to sort of providing them career counselling, students are also given a lot of guidance around how to actually draft your CV as well. And also assisting them in terms of developing their job application as well. So what that really means, now the university won't submit the application on the student's behalf, but they will assist in being able to proofread, being able to then give feedback on a potentially cover letter, and also the CV that the student has been able to actually developed before they submit that to a potential employer as well. The other thing, of course, is social media, and social media is obviously very, very important in this day and age as well, in particular LinkedIn. And so a lot of universities, as part of their career services, are actually assisting students being able to how to actually optimize or improve or develop their LinkedIn profile as well. In addition to looking at interview preparations and sort of doing simulation interviews to prepare the students to sort of become comfortable with all sorts of different questions that may arise in an interview situation as well. And then some universities also actually have separate what we call leadership development programs as well. And now these are co-curricular, these are not compulsory, and obviously students who are wishing to be able to develop these kind of soft skills are able to sort of take them up in addition to their normal studies as well. In addition to that, a lot of all universities also organise what we call career fairs. So, like India, where you have a placement cell, it doesn't really work like that in Australia. So, what will happen is essentially is on a rolling basis throughout the year, the university will invite industry, will invite employers to be able to come on campus and be able to develop like a seminar or a workshop like we're doing today as well. So, interested students can then come and actually listen and be able to then engage directly with the employer as well. In addition to that, they also... Can you guys hear me? Cool. I sort of hear that sometimes. I just then cuts out for a little while. They organise twice biannually a career expo as well. So this is a very, very large event that universities organise, in particular because Australia really has, at the undergrad level, they actually... Sorry, I was cutting out again. And that's usually it. So this is where a large, group of employers come on campus, and then a bit like the convention centre that we have here today, where the students are able to then, talk and visit all the different stalls that employers have, and be able to then engage and directly build rapport with the potential employers as well. In addition to that, of course, is that the universities also have student societies as well, which are obviously led by students as well. And they also organise a number of networking events after hours or during hours for their members as well, in order to be able to build that rapport, build that connection as well. Now, one of the things that I do want to clarify, and this is the big difference, and I think that is universities, as I mentioned, is that do not place students. And so there is an expectation here in India that once I go through university, the university will assist me to place me in somewhere. That's probably not, that's a myth I want to be able to bust right now for Australia, and probably also the other countries as well, is that the university will provide a platform for potential students to be able to utilize these services. But at the end of the day, it is up to the student to be able to connect with the employers and be also able to build a rapport and then be able to submit the application beyond that, but they will give a platform for that to happen as well. So a couple of things around what resources are publicly available for students as well. So one of the things that I really want to, I think this is a great tool. So it's called the Quality Indicator for Teaching and Learning, QUILT. So this is actually a suite of Australian government endorsed surveys for higher education across the life cycle from commencement to graduation. And this is publicly available for anyone, even students yourself, at various different parameters. So I'll give you an example. So when I graduated with my PhD, 6 months after my PhD, I was sent a survey by QUILT asking me for a whole lot of things around results are done annually, and then they are published as well. So there are 3 different surveys that are out there. So there's one is called the Student Experience Survey, which really talks about what the students felt while they were actually studying at the university. Then there's also the Graduate Outcome Survey as well, which actually then provides results publicly of the graduate outcomes a university has from that as well. So you're able to break it down by undergrad. You could actually break it down by university as well. So this is a very, very powerful, transparent tool to be able to utilize this as well. Then there's also the Employer Satisfaction Survey as well. So the government is also asking the employers, hey, you've hired this graduate. Were you actually happy with them? What are the necessary things that you think they need to improve on? What are they doing well? And that obviously also gets fed back into the university. So we have a good 360 loop as well. And look, one of the things I would recommend, not that I'm being facetious in any way, but one of the things I would like to sort of talk about here as well is have a look at, sometimes people talk about rankings as a good indicator for student experience and graduate outcomes. Review these, and I might actually there might be a myth buster there for you as well, because every university in Australia, their data is published here. So please use this tool when you are guiding students around that. So ranking is just one important determinant in a decision. There are other obviously factors that I think you as counsellors and also students need to take into consideration when making that choice around which university you should be going to as well. So you've graduated, the students graduated. What's next for them as well? So you probably heard in the news there's caps, and so I spent a majority of my day yesterday and pretty much sometime this morning talking about this, with a university. So look, I can address it. I'm not going to talk about caps here because that's a separate topic altogether, but I'll talk about postgraduate work rights eligibility as well. So the length of the student's eligibility for post-study work rights depends actually on the type of study, the qualification that they actually graduate from as well, and also the location. What I mean by that is for bachelor students, they get 2 years, minimum 2 years of post-study work rights. If you study a bachelor's program from a STEM-related area, students get 3 years post-study work rights as well. Now, then we have different permutations to this. So as part of the economic cooperation between Australia and India, the governments have agreed that all Indian students will get an additional 1 year to any of those work rights that are there as well. So, for example, if a student is eligible for 2 years work rights and they're an Indian student, they get 3 years. And if they're eligible for 3 years, they get 4 years of post-study work rights. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So if you graduate from a university which is located outside what we call the 3 big metro centres, which are Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane, students can actually be able to also get another additional year of post-study work rights. So a student who has got a bachelor's degree in the STEM area could potentially is eligible for up to 5 years of post-study work rights as well. So there's a lot of benefits there to be able to look beyond just the universities in Sydney, Melbourne, or Brisbane. And there are some great universities which are located within 150 kilometres of the perimeter of these cities, which are world leading and world class. And the students can then take full advantage of those 5 years, 3 to 5 years, or 4 to 5 years of post-study work rights as well. So look, I'll leave it there. And then I'm going to hand it over to my colleague to talk about the UK. And I'm happy to take questions afterwards.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me okay? I don't want a repeat of the opening plenary technology challenges. My name's Doug Waters. I'm from Abertay University in Scotland, and I'm here to talk about career opportunities in Scotland and the wider UK. When I was a very young kid, I wanted to be an artist because the only subject I liked in school was art and design. That very quickly was trod out of me by my parents because there's no money in being an artist, apparently. So I guess after that it was rugby player. I haven't given up that dream yet, still giving that a little bit of a go even into my 40s. So I guess I probably still haven't quite decided what I'd like to be. We've heard many times, we've all heard the trope that our future students will probably have 7 different careers. And they'll find them in many different ways. I went to an open day at a college when I was 16, and all I knew was I liked studying languages. And I got talked by a counsellor into studying a new marketing with languages program. And here I am standing here, a shameless marketeer who has really dropped a lot of the languages. But that's really just to say that I think whatever career you're going to head into, and whichever of the 7 careers or jobs that your students will have in the future, skills are going to underpin them. And it's the soft skills that kind of permeate all the things I wanted to do, from being an artist through sports and then into sort of marketing and a couple of legal jobs that I've had. It's been skills that have underpinned those, and it's skills that I'm going to come back to throughout this presentation. Going to talk a little bit about employability and what that means. It means different things to, I guess, the different stakeholders involved with your students. Students often will want to know that they can work part-time while they're studying so that they can enjoy themselves. Parents will be concerned with that from raising sort of pocket money perspective, but ultimately they're more concerned, and some of the students will be concerned with the ROI on their degree. What is my career trajectory if I do your program in your country? And it's a real challenge for you guys as a counselling community to kind of benchmark that and to compare that. What's it going to look like now, given the geopolitical turmoil that the world permanently seems to find itself in? What's that going to look like if I advise my student to go to this particular country? What's that going to look like in 5 years' time? You know, we're not fortune tellers, but we all do our best on both sides of this kind of counselling university divide to try and predict what may come. So I'm going to give a couple of insights around there, hopefully as well. What I really want to focus on, as well as sort of post-study opportunities, is what's employability as it's embedded in the curriculum. Back to this kind of a skills agenda. It's not just about wanting to stay and work in the UK. You know, as we've just heard at the opening plenary, the future's in India, you know. So wherever you're counselling students, you're preparing them for jobs anywhere in the world. And skills are, again, going to be what underpins that. The skills and competencies that we develop kind of through studying are what's going to prepare us for the world of work. When you undertake a job interview in the UK, for example, your resume gets you the interview, but it's a competency-based interview and assessment of your skills and experience that's really what gets you the job. And that's, I guess, what as counsellors, you guys are trying to instill in your students, and why you know, the themes of this conference are so urgent. The last UK government, many of you will probably be aware, had a strategy for international education to grow to 600,000 students in 5 years. It was met in one, and then we were met with lots of negative rhetoric as they tried to kind of dial back that ambition for growth. And immigration became a very hot topic in the UK, as it is in many countries around the world. Disappointing, but perhaps inevitable. Now, you'll probably be aware that the UK has a new government, and it's early days. We've had some positive rhetoric. Again, we're looking forward to hopefully some positive action that goes beyond the rhetoric. But I think what early signs look like is that it's going to have more of a skills focus. So becoming a little bit more nuanced, a little bit closer to sort of the agenda that Gurpreet's just outlined in Australia. So we'll be looking at a skills agenda, and one that prioritises certain sectors, and indeed perhaps, and as a Scots person, hopefully geographies within the UK as well. And that's really what's sought by higher education sector in the UK and also industry alike. And that's likely going to mean good news for your students if they're interested in digital and IT, health sciences, engineering and the built environment type programs, because there's an urgent need for workers in the UK in all of these sectors. And indeed, as we move into the different visa categories in the UK, if you're looking to switch from a graduate into a skilled worker visa, many of these salary thresholds are waived. So in things like IT, law, financial services, many of these starting salaries are above the threshold to move into a skilled worker visa. But if you're working in an urgent sector such as health sciences, for example, or digital and IT, where you're urgent and well paid, then they're likely going to waive those salary thresholds in order to meet the needs of industry. What best prepares students, though, for successful careers is, wherever they want to work in the world are the key skills through working with others. A lot of that preparatory work takes place in the schools. A lot of that work's being undertaken by you guys. And once a student is accepted in the UK, the vast majority of universities will be able to support them both with that transition into study, but also that transition into beginning to think about employability within the UK. At Abertay, we call these micro-credential programs, and it's pretty common across the UK. Short, bite-sized programs that you can do once you're accepted, before you're even enrolled, or before you've even accepted your offer, or let alone become an enrolled student. You can undertake these types of programs that will support you with the types of skills you're going to need to use both in your studies and then later in work. Yeah, so they're provided online. Yeah. Many UK universities will also have summer school programs that students, whether they're accepted or not, can dip into, that will kind of shine a light on that and give practical exposure to that. But many UK universities, indeed my own, have these micro-credential programs that you can undertake prior to study to get a flavour of whether it's student experience, campus life, or the more practical around sort of vocational training. And there's a great deal of extra and curricular opportunity also. So much of this is similar to what's been covered in Hong Kong and Australia, so I won't labour the point too much on that type of thing around work placements, internships. These are readily available in the vast majority of UK institutions. Our civil engineering programme guarantees students 6 weeks in industry. Our biomed programme has what's called an applied route, which many different degrees in the UK, particularly those around health sciences, will have, where essentially you're doing a sandwich year in industry that elongates your program by a year, but you're getting that paid and practical work experience as part of the program. But as I said, it's really within the curricular opportunity that I'm keen to kind of to get across key points, and I'd really urge you to explore when you're kind of helping students with college choice. Like Gurpreet covered with Australia, our academic faculties, most in the UK, are required to embed industrial opportunity within their programs. Professional networking, development, bringing in industry speakers, engaging with sort of industry projects. If they don't adopt that pedagogical approach, they're not allowed to teach those programs. It's a requirement. It's a requirement under most of our quality assurance agencies. And yeah, if it's not there, we don't teach it. To use Abertay shamelessly as an example again, we have a project within our business school where we bring in Heineken, who are one of our kind of core business partners, to set marketing briefs for our students. Their CEO or UK CEO told us recently that they wish they hadn't paid 6 figures to a consultancy for the ideas that came out of there, and actually they'd rather have used some of the better ideas they got from students, younger minds thinking about how to sort of position product. And we do that across, and all UK universities will do that across various different disciplines. We're big on game design, we're big in Rockstar, we're big on engineering, we bring in Michelin, and they'll help us to shape the curriculum. UK universities love to talk about, universities worldwide love to talk about their industry-led programs. That's on every website you guys and your students look at. Challenge that. Ask what that means. Because it's a trope that's very well used. But these types of opportunities are common across all UK universities, and they should be. Without labouring these, because they're similar to what you've heard about in Australia, all UK universities will have a careers service. Again, it's part of being a public university within the UK. Again, there are pre-sessional opportunities such as buddying. You can be paired up with students to help you with that transition into study. But again, if you're paired up with a student, an upper year student within the same discipline, that also leads to opportunities to engage and learn from the experiences they've had in sort of industrial placement. There's also mentoring programs. I'm part of the one at Abertay, where I've had the privilege the last 3 years running of mentoring 3 upper year students. It's a total cliche, but true to say that you learn as much from them as they do from you. You know, some of the insights we got at the opening plenary about kind of being inspired by young people and their view of the world. I've really learned a lot from engaging in that. But again, the purpose of that is for us. Yes, there are staff that do it, but we again bring in industry mentors to coach students, help them with work experience, help them with CV build, help them with sort of professional networking opportunities. And our career services will do all of that piece around career build, interview practice. One international student told me that the first time they went for an interview in the UK, right after they graduated, they showed up quite casually dressed, which doesn't tend to be common in most sectors in the UK. And that was a cultural thing. The country that they'd come from, that was commonplace to go and present yourself in that way, where it's a little bit more formal in the UK. They had not engaged early with the career service. Now, your students who engage with you as counsellors are probably the motivated ones. They're the ones that will likely in Freshers Week see the career service begging for students to engage and become involved. But far too many students wait until 6 months out from graduation or kind of 3 weeks out from graduation. What am I going to do? How am I going to get a job? And by that point, they've missed out on some really good extracurricular opportunities to develop professionally and kind of build that professional competence that will help them to get jobs. Or they've just missed out on the CV workshops and the interview practice. So really, early engagement is key for your students as you're advising them when they're going to university. If they're concerned about working opportunities, get in and see that careers office at Freshers Week. You know, you want to join the football team, you want to join music societies, but you really want to get in there and think about, and your parents really want you to get there and think about the career that you're going to have after graduation. These services will also help you with part-time work. Many of you are probably aware that in the UK, under the sort of visa regime that we have at the moment, students can work for 20 hours per week alongside their studies. In most college towns, which I would class Dundee as, then there is a prevalence of work within retail, hospitality sectors for students if they're looking to make, if they're looking just to work part-time. But a key thing that I'd like to stress that's available at many UK universities, again, I'm going to talk a little bit about the one at Abertay, is around entrepreneurship. You know, and India being such a country of such entrepreneurial spirit, many of our students start their own companies. We're a very practical, vocationally driven university. We're big on game design. We're big on sort of business and digital business. So a lot of our students will start their own companies, and most UK universities will provide some sort of support for that in terms of, again, bringing in industry mentors, helping you to apply for business loans, helping you to get registered as a company, whether that's in the UK or, as is becoming more common, if you're seeking to work back home or in a third country. Back to the practical and sort of the graduate route and skilled worker visas. These are, as I say, the skilled worker visa is going to hopefully become more aligned to NEET. The way that the UK works at the moment is after graduation from a taught program, undergraduate or postgraduate, you get guaranteed work as, well, sorry, not guaranteed work. Absolutely, you don't get guaranteed work. As Gurpreet said, we don't place anybody. I don't think anybody's placing anybody. But you have that as the university remains your sponsor for 2 years after graduation. So you have the opportunity to apply for work, to get yourself a job that's aligned with your degree, and the university remains your sponsor for that 2-year period. The employer gets a chance to know you, you get a chance to impress the employer, and then hopefully switch into an employment visa after that. If students do after that want to switch into a skilled worker visa, then as I mentioned at the start, there are salary thresholds for different sectors, and these are publicly available. As I said, the more urgent sectors such as health service, digital and IT, then if you don't meet that salary threshold, it's waived. Coming back to these competencies, though, these are really what will help you to get these positions, whether it's kind of while you're studying, whether it's after you graduate. When you go for that that job interview, the examples and the experience that you have around decision making, good communication, problem solving, teamwork and motivation, that experience is what gets you the job. It's not having straight A's at school. It's not even having a first class bachelor's degree. If you're competing for positions and that's your academic record, chances are you're competing with people who also have that academic track record. So engage early in kind of work experience opportunities and build these kind of competency-based examples that will help you to get work in the UK or wherever you choose to work post-graduation. Now, universities in the UK recognize that they need to do more. After you graduate, it can't just be about our graduate outcomes survey, remaining your sponsor for 2 years, sending you our alumni mailer every 6 months and asking you if you'd like to donate to your alma mater. So again, I'll finish on a challenge in terms of whatever your kind of choice of study destination, whatever your students' preference for where they're going to work after they study, challenge the university. How are they keeping in touch with students? How are they supporting them in sessional, pre-sessional, but also after they finish to place them into kind of the careers that they're looking for? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so last in the alphabet, but potentially number one in your hearts. United States has a lot of opportunities for career and professional development as well. So just to note, first of all, that one of the things that is important to note about the the US higher education system in general is that there are 4,000 different colleges and universities. There is not a national education strategy in the United States. So each of these institutions operates independently and decides how they want to work with students, what kind of services they want to offer, things along those lines. However, there is a national student visa process, and so these components on the screen right now are available to any student in any university in the United States. And so that's a really important consideration for students to keep in mind. The first is to note that at any point when a student comes to study at a college or university in the United States, they're welcome to work on campus. So at LMU, for example, we have students who work with us as tour guides, work in our library, work in residence halls, things like that. So you're welcome to work on campus in any capacity in a part-time role over the course of the duration of your degree. You also have the opportunity, once you've completed one full academic year, to be part of what's called curricular practical training, or CPT. So CPT has to be relevant to the student's major. That's kind of broadly defined, but it has to be relevant to the major. It occurs, of course, before the student has actually completed their degree. And the idea is that that's the internship opportunities, things that can take place off campus. Of course, in the United States, there are many companies that are willing to work with students to do internships and those kind of experiences. And so it's definitely very much a benefit to students to take advantage of those kind of opportunities, okay? Once a student has completed their degree, there is the option of what's called optional practical training, or OPT. OPT is available for all students for one full academic year, regardless of their major. So no matter what, in what subject matter the student is pursuing, once they have completed their degree, they can then continue to work at an institution in the United States for a year. If they are interested and if they've taken a course in a STEM field, that program would be extended to 3 years. And so for someone who's interested in extending their time in the United States, studying something along the lines of computer science, life sciences, things along those lines, engineering, is a strong benefit to be able to continue their stay in the United States. Okay? So the important thing to note about that, again, is that it is not dependent upon any additional process. Once a student has their student visa, the curricular practical training and optional practical training are built in. It's also crucial to note that the student visa in the United States is categorized as a non-immigrant visa. So at no point is there a pathway for a permanent residency as part of the U.S. student visa. And in fact, the most common reason that students are rejected from the student visa process when they are pursuing it initially is they're expected to demonstrate in their student visa interview, according to current policy, that they are planning to gain knowledge and experience in the United States and then return to their home country. So again, the most common reason why a student would be rejected for a student visa appointment or not granted a student visa is because they cannot convincingly tell a consular official why they want to return home. Okay? So that is the H-1B process, of course, is a different experience altogether. That is where an employer sponsors someone who is a non-U.S. citizen to stay in the United States. That is, again, that's something that's not connected directly to the student visa process itself. So, again, but that is built into the student visa, and so there's no additional process to be considered for these kind of experiences. As we talked about with my other colleagues who are here today, a lot of similarities in terms of the services that are offered to students. At colleges and universities in the United States, there are certainly a lot of resources dedicated to helping students understand what an interview process should look like in the United States, what a resume should look like that would be relevant to U.S. employers, right? Similar to what you've heard before, we will have opportunities for career fairs and bringing employers to our students to be able to connect with them directly. And there are a lot of organizations as well dedicated to supporting connections between colleges and universities, such as the National Association of Colleges and Employers or National Career Development Association as well. So again, there's a lot of opportunity to really connect directly between employers and industry. And there is certainly a little bit of attention there, I would say. And some of the academics that you'd find on the college university really feel that the degree should be a purely academic pursuit. Should be that the students are in the institution because they want to gain knowledge and grow intellectually. The reality is we know that there are employers who are really pressuring colleges and universities as well to ensure that the students are leaving with the type of skills that then can translate very well to the types of tasks that they'll be asked to pursue in the future. This is an example on the left of the slide as well of the outcomes data that colleges and universities are required to track as part of their processes. And so, for example, you can see here our example includes within 6 months the amount of students who have found full-time employment or continue on to graduate school, pursue military service, community service work, things like that. So again, colleges and universities in the United States are expected to track these kind of metrics and provide this information to prospective students so that they have a sense of the impact that is important to understand about the value of their degree. And the last thing I want to mention before we go to a brief moment of question and answers is when we're tracking students in the United States at various levels, and again, the United States is the home of the largest number of international students around the world, continues to be the case. You'll see in various categories here, we track them by undergraduate, graduate, non-degree, which would be seeking English language proficiency in most cases, and OPT. And so you can see here that this has actually lagged a little bit from year to year. But if you note the number of OPT students who continue on and pursue further study after they complete their degree continues to be quite high. Higher than the non-degree numbers, certainly, and close and comparable to the number of undergraduate and graduate students who are in the United States. So again, we know that that's an important consideration for students coming to the United States to pursue that kind of professional growth and development. And within the student visa process, that is very much an important consideration for any student who receives that permission to come to the United States. All that to say, with a big caveat that this is the policy currently. You're probably well aware that in a few months, the United States has a presidential election, which may or may not be quite consequential in this policy, as we've had a lot of rhetoric about specifically OPT over the course of the presidential campaign as well. Okay. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We do have a little bit of time for question and answer. I believe we have some microphones we can pass around as well, but if anyone has a question for any of our panelists, now would be the time. Wow, Wow, I think this might be an IC3 first. No questions from the audience whatsoever. That is astounding. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Thank you. This question is for UK. When you have work experience possibility, is it only for UK or also for students to go and work in Europe and vice versa?
Oh, yeah.
So, unfortunately, when the UK took a decision to leave the European Union, we fell out of a program which was called Erasmus, which provided a much more generous opportunity for students to go and spend kind of industrial placement periods overseas. Now, that is still possible for students under what's called the Turing scheme, and also under independent institutional arrangements with other universities. So under the new Turing scheme, universities bid in advance for a certain number of either study or work-based learning opportunities for students overseas. So, for example, we're sending some students to Singapore on sort of food science placements. We're sending some students to Italy on engineering placements. But universities are required to bid for those up to a year in advance. So it's very hard to sort of second guess demand. So it's kind of driven at a faculty level. And similarly, where you'll have kind of independent arrangements with other universities overseas, there might be the opportunity for sort of lab-based work, for example. Those, again, will often be sort of faculty-driven and likely, as many colleagues have been saying for other jurisdictions, likely to be in the STEM fields.
So it's university-based, right?
Tends to be university-based, yeah.
Yeah, and one needs to check that before admissions.
It's unlikely before you applied for, faculties within universities will talk about the different work-based opportunities that they have. So if there's something that they're running every year, there's a work experience program through the summer, for example, somewhere, then that's likely available at a sort of faculty level. Where it's just infill for individual student sign up, then that's for most universities now managed either privately or through the Turing scheme. And it would be unlikely, as you were counselling a student, to be able to sort of forecast where they could go in year 2 or 3 at a university. So when you're sort of engaging with universities at that sort of university choice stage, I would recommend, universities will often offer you the opportunity to talk to academic staff. I would try and speak to faculty, try and get beyond the international office to understand the sort of priority markets and countries and partnerships for that faculty, and able to sort of guide that decision making around what might be available 2, potentially 3 years down the track.
And it's similar for universities in Ireland and Scotland?
So Scotland's within the UK. So so everything I just said stands for Scotland. Ireland's pretty similar, but different. So they run things in a very similar way, but not part of the UK yet. Not part of Turing. Still part of Erasmus. I'm not telling you to go there or anything.
Hi, good afternoon. This is a question for the US.
Okay.
Regarding the CPT that you spoke about,
Yes.
When is the right time to do that? During the time when they are graduating, post-graduation, once they're graduated, after that? What is the time for them to take that?
Right. So again, the two main things: curricular practical training (CPT) is available after a student has completed 1 full academic year. So in most cases, it's over the summer, or within the breaks between the semesters, for example. Sometimes it's a full-time employment opportunity, so a student might decide to pursue an internship over the course of the academic year. But the crucial part is that they have to demonstrate that they have a little bit of basis academically to be able to qualify for CPT. OPT exclusively happens at the end of a degree. And so once a student has completed the degree, they have that year window, regardless of their major, or up to 3 years. Again, as my colleagues mentioned as well, U.S. institutions will not place the student, will not provide them with an employment opportunity, but they will help them with resources in that window to try to find an opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. So it's for all the countries. were representing here. So US is pretty clear on how they have OPT, which is kind of built in the student visa. All of you said that you do provide post-work opportunities, post-graduation work opportunities. Is there a separate visa for it, or is it also built in your student visas for all of you? Because all of you said there are post-graduation work opportunities.
Briefly for the UK, I guess the university remains the sponsor for students for 2 years.
What does that mean?
So in order to study in the UK or in most countries, you'll require a student visa. So you'll apply for a student visa, but you can switch that into a graduate visa very simply when the student completes studies. So they then have the opportunity to work for 2 years under that visa, and the university that sponsored their student visa is their graduate visa sponsor. So it's almost like a transition 2-year period for students to work under the university's sponsor. Their right to work in the country is still sponsored by the university that brought them there. And then if they want to, that unlike the US, that is potentially a route to sort of permanent residency if you switch visas a couple of times, and that can sort of take 5 to 7 years after your graduate visa. But yes.
That's correct, yes.
In the UK, you apply to switch from your student visa to a graduate visa. Yeah. But if you pass your course, you will get it.
So for Australia, students obviously have to apply for another visa, and students are not automatically eligible to be able to get that visa automatically. They have to apply, and obviously one of the big criterion is graduating for minimum 2 years of study in Australia with a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. And then there's also certain aspects in there about meeting character and things like that as well, but there's no other requirement. So the university will not be involved in that process or will not be in any way sponsoring the student. It's independently, if the student wishes to exercise their right to be able to apply for that visa, they can do that independently, and they have to do that within 3 months of actually graduating from the university as well.
So does this need to happen while they are in the country, or do they have to come back, apply for visa? How does this?
So a lot of students actually apply whilst they're actually in the country as well. So how the student visa happens, that is, so Australia has something called a confirmation of enrollment, COE, and COE is the duration of your COE is linked to your student visa. COE, confirmation of enrollment, and that is, it's a bit like like what's it in the, like a CAS in the US, and what's it for you guys? The I-20, like the I-20. Yeah, similar. So what happens that is normally after you graduate, the duration of your COE is always 3 months after as well. Universities normally you give a 3-month date after you graduate, and that period allows you to be able to then apply. So you can attend graduation. You can also be able to then apply for your post-study work rights as well. And so depending on the length, so depending on what you choose to do, as well as you may then, once you get your post-study work rights, found employment, you may then be able to work with your potential employer to be able to find other migration or skill-based visa that they can sponsor you to probably stay longer in Australia as well. So it doesn't mean that you can't then move out of the post-study work stream. Hong Kong, sorry.
Right. So Hong Kong is easy. They just stay in Hong Kong and apply for visa extension at the same time, and it usually comes in a month or 2. So that's it. Easy. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So thank you again so very much for coming. Unfortunately, we were out of time, but we're happy to continue the conversation with you. And I hope you enjoyed the rest of the conference. Thank you so very much.